What's up, folks? Welcome to 802 Garage, home to endless project cars. Today, I want to talk to you about why estimating the time a project will take for me just really never works out. But first, a big announcement. The first wave of merch is finally up. It is on Teespring. There will hopefully be a link in the upper corner and down in the description. And one cool thing about Teespring is I should also have the little merch shelf below the video, although it might not show up for like 24 to 48 hours. Apparently, I'm pretty happy with the way the designs came out, and I did try to keep the prices low. I understand it might still be a bit pricey for some of you, and please contact me if that's the case. Maybe we can work something out, but I put up two grades of t-shirt, one that's more affordable and one that's softer and nicer, a hoodie, some stickers, and a mug. And I would like to put up some more things in the future as well, like hats and beanies. I have to apply for a design and they'll get back to me in a couple days. I technically did Teespring the wrong way by making separate designs for each merch item. They want you to bundle it all under one design and then you kind of select it, but I like it more this way so you can kind of browse it like a normal store. Let me know what you think. If you'd rather it just be one item with the same design, you can click through it, or a larger store like I have it. But in the future, I will probably have to change it up for things like the caps and beanies because it'll be applied to one of my other designs. We'll see what happens. Anyways, please do check it out. Even if you're not interested in buying the merch at all, please just go to the link, check out what I have there. And if you have any feedback, positive or negative, as long as it's constructive, don't just say, these designs suck. That doesn't really help me. If you don't like it, tell me why. If you don't like the prices, let me know and let me know what you think is more reasonable. But honestly, I'm just making a little margin on these. Teespring is one of the more affordable websites. I was trying to research competition, and there are some people selling hoodies for, $50, $55, and I wanted to step up to the premium hoodie, but it was like you'd have to charge a minimum of $45 to make any money, and I don't know. But if there's an item y'all would like and you don't see it there, please do let me know that as well. I'm really not opposed to adding something temporarily for even just one or two people who really want something. Of course, there will be more designs in the future. If you have any ideas for that, please let me know, and there will be more channel agnostic designs, things that are not directly branded with my channel branding, but for now it is mostly the shift knob design and the license plate design. Let me know how you think they turned out. So the next thing I do want to talk about is why I'm so terrible at estimating the amount of time each task on a project car will take me, which is why they are endless project cars. You'll see I put that little slogan down at the bottom of the license plate design, by the way. That's why I've been saying it. I just was trying to think of what to put on the bottom of the plate, and I came up with that, and I really, really like it. I've always wanted a better channel slogan, and just trying to think of one really works. It has to come organically, and I was sitting there that night working on the license plate, and I was like, man, this is perfect. Endless project cars, because a project car is never finished. They're endless because I'm always going to have them. I'm always going to have more of them. And they're endless because, well, y'all know it takes me forever. But we are making progress on this, my 2001 Impreza 2.5 RS with a JDM WRX swap in it, if you don't know about this car already. And what I want to talk about is I estimated that replacing the captive nut on the right side of the car would take me hopefully around 2 hours. And here's why that was totally inaccurate. So first, let's just go look at it. You can see I still have a mess over here on the ground, some paint, all the tools that were needed to do this, a ruler, a grinder, a saw, flashlight. And here's what I ended up with. So hopefully you can see that pretty well. And yeah, obviously these little welds right here, totally not perfect. I'm really not concerned. The frame rail itself is not perfect, but this is the one that I replaced right here on the left. And yeah, you can see that a bolt will go in there and it's welded in place. That's the original one that I didn't move. And obviously I had to cut that out, weld it all up, make sure that it was level and in the right position. You can even see there's a little rust to the frame rail here. But yeah, I thought, 2 hours to cut that out, weld it back there, and then weld the entire plate back in. But the reason that didn't work, well, there are a few reasons. One of the first ones is I was hoping to use a hole saw. The problem with that, and I will try to show you some clips as I'm talking about this, but the problem with trying to use a hole saw is that part of the bolt was still left sticking out of the broken captive nut, of course. And in order to really use a hole saw, you have to have the pilot point in the middle, if you're working on metal at least. Otherwise, the teeth just scoot across the metal and fly all over. You'll never get anywhere. I did try. Anyways, did not work out at all. Now, I could have cut the bolt flat, welded it in place, and drilled a pilot hole through it, or cut it and moved the bolt out of the way, and then cut a little piece of metal, put it over that, and then drilled a pilot through that. But that's just, just seemed like too much work to do the same job. So I used an angle grinder instead. The problem with the angle grinder, of course, is that it's large. And so fitting in there was kind of a pain in the butt. So I did try to use a Dremel. Unfortunately, it turns out this frame rail is pretty thick, and it's kind of thick in a weird way, which also added to the time, which is that it has a thin outer layer, like maybe 22 gauge or something like that, although it's rusty, so who knows. And then it has two thicker inner layers that are probably something like 14 gauge, like 1.5 millimeters, somewhere in that range. Two layers that are combined to make the frame rail. So there was 3 layers of metal, had to cut through them all. And then when I did go to weld the captive nut back in, I had to weld in the double layer first and then weld in the outer layer. Otherwise, it just never really would have worked, or at least looked proper. And of course, on top of that, there's just lots of rust cleaning. There's painting everything with weld through primer so that it doesn't just instantly burn up and flake off the metal, so that it doesn't rust away on the inside immediately, and then painting it after I'm done. And really, none of that is exactly why it took so long, but one thing is I forgot that I need to pretty much double any estimate for filming. And I know that that sounds kind of extreme, but it's just the truth, because every single time I move and need to do something, I have to stop the camera, I have to check and make sure that things are still in frame, I have to reposition it, I have to make sure it's not sitting directly underneath welding sparks and not gonna just, crack my camera lens, which did happen on one of my old ones, or, burn holes into the phone case or whatever it is. So that adds time, and using different mounting devices, everything like that. So really, when I said 2 hours, I should have said 4 hours. And then stuff like not anticipating that it was such a multi-layered design in there, not realizing just how space constrained I was, and of course, just all the time it takes to get up and down off the ground repeatedly, paint things, and move tools around to actually get to what I'm doing. I just didn't really account for that, because so when I'm making an estimate in my mind, I think to myself, for example, in this job, okay, all I have to do is take a hole saw, cut out the metal. That should literally take 5 to 10 minutes. Once I have that out, I just have to get a new nut, which I ended up using a lug nut in this case because it was the right thread pattern and the right size and everything fit right in the spot of the original nut, which had actually ovaled out and was pretty weird. I was gonna take the original bolt out and reuse the same nut, but it had literally deformed and I could not get the broken bolt out. So I don't know why exactly that happened, maybe from the subframe flexing and actually trying to bend the nut. I'm really not sure, but couldn't get that out, so I used a lug nut to replace it. But so, like I said, in my mind, 10 minutes to hole saw, 10 minutes to weld the new nut on, maybe 30 to 45 minutes to weld the new one back into the frame and, paint it real quick. But the truth is that just doesn't account for all the factors of getting up and down, staying warm, which by the way, it's pretty cold out here and my heater was really helping. But honestly, yesterday doing that captive nut just trashed me. It was so cold out and the heater was doing a great job. But even so, laying on the cement and, getting up and down, and I can't have the heater running 24/7. That would get expensive. Yeah, it just really, really drained me energy-wise. And of course, all this work is above my head. So just constantly holding my arms up, holding a grinder up, moving on things, holding the welder in an awkward position, staying out from under it so it doesn't just splatter onto my head. I'm using a face shield, of course, a face mask, but it only does so much. Those welding sparks like to go everywhere, especially when you're using flux core like I still am. So all those little things just add up. And it's funny because I've actually had some formal training in time estimating on jobs when I was doing basically video game production in college. And I won't say I was terrible at estimating then, but what I will say is I definitely learned a lot. And one of the things they tell you when you first start being someone who's supposed to estimate job times is take your initial estimate and double it, and then you might be close. And I really think that's what I need to start doing with stuff on the channel. And a lot of you probably know I try not to give estimates anymore on when is a car going to be done, when is a job going to be done, etc. So whenever you see me do it from now on, just ask me in the comments like, hey, did you, double that estimate and then add a little more wiggle room? Or are you full of crap again? But the basic point is that if I had taken that initial estimate of 2 hours, doubled it for filming and for unknowns, gotten 4 hours, and then basically just added some wiggle room of another 2 hours, I might have been close, because I probably have about 6 hours of labor into fixing that captive nut, which I know sounds ridiculous, but that's the way it is. If I had a lift, if I had a better welder, and if I had some better tools, not that what I have is bad, but if I had a better workbench and everything like that, I could probably get that job down to 2 to 3 hours. But without that, with all that having to get up and down, you know what? It is what it is. And I do have one more thing, well actually 2 more things to do underneath the car before I can start reassembly. One of them is just that since I painted that other frame rail, I do want to at least paint this one. You can see this terrible rust right there, which I'm not even gonna bother with, but I am gonna clean it up and I am gonna paint it at least. I know I really should bother with it, but I don't want to because, well, this car is just a big old pile of beautiful trash. But so I need to do that, so thinking real quick, I gotta wire wheel it, I don't know, 10 minutes, I gotta paint it, I don't know, 10 minutes, we'll just add 10 minutes for miscellaneous, so 30 minutes, so I'm gonna call it an hour and a half just to clean up that frame rail and paint it, and maybe I will be close, and other than that, I do need to replace the filler tube, and I already know I'm gonna hit some snags with that because there are some evap lines and some bolts that I'm definitely just gonna break off, and there's the screws at the top of the filler tube that go into the body that I always like to strip. So all that combined, it's a job that with everything out of the way like that should definitely take me less than an hour. I'm just gonna call it, I don't know, let's go with 2.5. I'm gonna do 2.5 on that. I'm gonna go with 5 hours of labor just to clean and paint one frame rail that I will hopefully resist the temptation to weld on and to replace the filler tube. So maybe another 5 hours of work before I just get into reassembly. And reassembly is a place where I can definitely estimate better because literally all I'm doing is putting bolts through parts and torquing them down. But torquing does add time, as does painting any little things I find if I need to, if I'm going to. And also I do have all the bolts that I need to make sure I use the right ones, and I need to clean them up a bit, which is usually just an air grinder with a wire wheel and then, some lubricant, some anti-seize. But no idea how long the whole assembly is going to take me, but if I did go through it, I think I could get a much more accurate estimate on that rather than disassembling and fixing rusty crap, which always takes so long to plan. That rant was much longer and contained many more words than I expected, but maybe it gives y'all some insight on why I'm not only so terrible at estimating time, but also on how you can maybe go about estimating time on your jobs. I will say that literally learning the basics of being a project manager, shall we say, a scrum master in industry terminology, that is what they told you. If you're going to estimate times, if you get a time estimate from an employee and you don't yet know their work or they're new, double the estimate and then you might be close. So literally between 1.5 and 2.5 times an initial estimate until you know someone's speed and quality of work is a good idea. And I do know my speed of work, but for some reason in my head, I always think I'm going to be much faster. And I don't think watching YouTube helps because I watch all these other people who are younger than me, same age as me, have better tools than me, have whole shops, have people helping them. And I think, oh man, they got that done fast, which I know YouTube makes it look fast. But even if I can see through the YouTube magic, I think they got that done fast. I can do that. I have all the stuff to do that. And a lot of times it's just not the case, especially not with how picky I get about the way I do work, cleaning bolts, painting little things, whatever it is. So thank you so much for watching 802 Garage, folks. Again, please do check out the merch. Even if you're not interested in buying it, just leave me some feedback. Let me know below what you thought about the merch, if you have any feedback, or if you have nothing at all to say, but you at least helped me out and went and checked it out, please do let me know. I remember everybody who comments. I appreciate it. You do know that I try to get back to you all, obviously. I've caught up with almost all the comments, but there's still some replies and stuff like that. And if you really want to, you can let me know if you bought anything in the merch, because I will appreciate that, but I'm totally not asking anybody to, buy anything just to get my attention, because believe me, watching the videos and commenting and liking it and everything is totally enough. So I really appreciate you. There will be more progress soon. We're getting pretty close actually to finally having the 2.5 RS drive again, and it is registered and it is insured. It's just not inspected. So I can drive it around, and all I'm risking hopefully is like $100 ticket. But I will at least be ripping up and down the dirt roads. Then I've got some fixing to do in the engine bay, as well as a couple upgrades for it. I don't know what I'm going to prioritize exactly as soon as that is out of the garage, but y'all can let me know what you think as well. Catch you very soon. I've been ranting too much, but I really appreciate y'all. Later from 802 Garage. Bye-bye. Thanks for the SR20. Have a wonderful time.